Hello, and welcome to the Mother of the Year podcast. I want to first of all say thanks for listening. You are probably one of my friends or one of my family members who, out of the goodness of your hearts, decided to tune into this podcast, but welcome anyway. If you can hear the lulling sound of the dryer in the background, I am literally recording this first episode on my bed with the dryer running because my 5-month, almost 6-month-old son is finally asleep in his crib. We had a long night last night. I think he's just about to cut his 2 bottom teeth, and it's pretty brutal. I'd love to say that my partner, my husband, and I took turns waking up with the baby, but let's be real. It's always mama by default. So this podcast, just to tell you a little bit about what's going to be going on here, it is for the perfectly imperfect moms out there. If you are one of those lucky women who say, my husband and I, we're 50-50 in this. We're a partnership. We have these kids together. We're going to raise them together. We do everything 50-50. This is probably not the podcast for you. If you are a parent who just totally soaks up 100% of every moment with your child, this is probably not the podcast for you. On the other hand, if you feel like you do the majority of the work and you know what? You still love your partner anyway, maybe this is the podcast for you. And sometimes when all you want is 5 stinking minutes to yourself, then maybe this is the podcast for you. I titled this podcast, It Takes a Village, because there's that old cliche, it takes a village to raise a child. But in my reference to this cliche, it really takes a village to get through the struggle of having children. My husband and I, we swear, no one prepared us for having kids. It looked so easy. I remember I can admit I judged, and I always thought I will never do that when I have kids. And now a lot of times I feel like I am committing every sin or mistake or anything I ever judged in other parents, I feel like has come back to haunt me and bite me in the butt. But you know what? I've really been open and honest with the other mom friends in my life, and I've been true to the fact that I do struggle and that, am I alone in this? And honestly, we're all kind of in this struggle together as moms. A couple years ago, or I guess about 3 years ago, when I decided I was ready to have kids, I was so excited. I've always wanted kids my whole life. I've been known for being the weirdo at the party that would kind of hang out with the kids at the party versus the adults. And I always knew, I guess, or thought that I would be such a great mom. Fast forward to having my daughter 2.5 years ago. She totally rocked my world. I would love to say she rocked my world because I fell in love with her from the moment that I saw her, but honestly, it was a totally earth-shattering experience. First of all, I was one of those people that spent $800 taking a childbirthing class. I learned all of the breathing techniques. I was convinced I was going to have a natural labor, no medication, and thought I was totally prepared for that. Well, as most of you mommies know out there, your birth plan doesn't exactly always go as planned. So where I thought I would have an unmedicated natural birth, I ended up having an emergency C-section right at the end. I do like to brag, however, that I did make it to a 9.5, all natural, no drugs whatsoever, but my daughter kind of got lodged in the birth canal and went into distress. And honestly, in retrospect, sometimes I wonder if it's my fault because I should have just taken the drugs. I should have just had them. I would have been relaxed, and who knows, maybe I could have given birth to her rather than had her cut open out of my tummy. So I also have a 5, like I said, almost 6-month-old son, and I did successfully achieve a VBAC. So I did get to have him vaginally, which, if there are any men tuning in, sorry if that's TMI for you, but you know what? This is kind of a podcast meant for women, so deal with it. And it's kind of funny thinking about having a VBAC because now, looking back yet again, a big part of me wishes that I would have just had another C-section. After having my daughter, I didn't pee when I would sneeze. And I do experience that from time to time now, so maybe I should have just had that C-section. But on a positive note, this time I did take the drugs, and I was literally text messaging people from my hospital bed. And I do recall texting people that it was magical, that the drugs are magical. And so, I kind of experienced all 3 experiences. I had the natural labor, I had the C-section, I had the VBAC, and I have lived to tell the tale. So, like I said, I have a 2.5-year-old daughter and an almost 6-month-old son. My daughter is the best thing that's happened to me and the worst thing that's happened to me. She was a very difficult baby. Of course, people love to tell me that, their kid cried 24 hours out of the day and, never slept and stuff like that. But, it's all relative. What was difficult for me might not have been difficult to someone else, but I'm just here to share my experience. She cried a lot, and she liked to be held when she slept. She did not take a pacifier. She did not like riding in the car. What else? She, breastfeeding was a challenge, and I just was not expecting that kind of experience. I thought if you were prepared and you were excited and you knew that this was something that you wanted, that it would just come really easily. Now that she's 2.5, she is so much like my husband and so much like me. I feel like she's, oh wow, the dryer stopped, so now it should be a lot quieter if you're wondering why all of a sudden it's quieter. I like to say she has his temper, and she has my dramatic side, which is pretty much me in a nutshell. So it's tough. It's been really challenging on our marriage. You definitely see why, people say the 2 times that people are most likely to get divorced is the first year after marriage and then the first year after having kids. I feel like we didn't even really fight before we had kids, and now that we have a baby all over again, it's like those same fights that we had after my daughter was born. It's just tough. I'm tired, he's tired, the kids are tired, and it really is challenging. I am not a stay-at-home mom. I am a full-time teacher. I teach middle school, which means I get to be with kids all day, and then I get to come home and clock into job number 2 and be with my kids. I'm somebody that likes to work. If you're a working mom listening to this, there are working moms that really resent working and wish they could be with their kids full time. I am the opposite. I really do like working, and usually by mid-weekend, I'm kind of glancing at the clock, seeing when it's going to be Monday. I battle with that. I feel like, women are socialized to feel like, we're the mothers and we should be home with our children. And if we have to work, that should be a tragedy because we should want to be home with our kids. But the truth is, I like being a teacher. Teachers always say we're not in it for the money, we're in it because we love what we do. And that's true in my case. My whole point in bringing up the fact that I'm a working mom is that, my intellect tells me that when I have time to be with my children, I should really be soaking up that time and basking in the glow of my children. But if I'm being honest here, which is the point of this podcast, a lot of times when I come home from work, I park my car and I'm lucky enough to where my children are at a daycare slash Montessori preschool literally 20 steps from our house. So I park the car and I look across the street, and sometimes I just find myself taking a deep breath. Like, okay, here we go. Here's round two for my day. So it's tough because you don't get that downtime. My only downtime that I do get is the drive to and from work. That's where I started listening to some podcasts, and I felt kind of inspired to start a podcast of my own, which is what brings me here with you today. But going back to the whole picking up the kids after work thing, it's really tough because my my husband's number one request is that when he comes home from work, that he just wants some time to decompress. Literally, he wants to be able to go to the bathroom, make himself a drink, and then if he needs me to take one of the kids, he's willing to do so. Which it really has taken some good battles to get there. Not that he was willing to help, but he felt like sometimes he was coming home and I was dumping the kids into his arms like, I'm done. And I can understand that perspective, but I also feel like that's kind of what happens to me on a daily basis. It's not like I can come home from work and go to the bathroom, make myself a drink or something to eat, and then go pick up the children from daycare. That's not how it works. I go, I pick up the kids, I come right home and dive headfirst into mommy duty. And sometimes into actual duty in the diapers. Both kids, diapers, good times. Side note, we're working on my daughter being potty trained, but again, mother of the year, I'm really not being that diligent about it. I feel like I should be more diligent. She's using the potty mostly at school. But honestly, in the struggle that I'm in right now with having two kids, it's easier to just change diapers. I'm not going to lie. But I swear, I promise I'm going to get better at the whole potty training thing soon. So anywho, as I was saying, it's not like us moms coming home from work can just get like a 15-30 minute decompression time when there's literally a baby crying, reaching his arms out for me, a daughter demanding milk and snacks. And there's also that fun moment of having the little chat with the teacher at the end of the school day. My daughter, as I mentioned, she is the best and the worst thing that's ever happened to me. She, like to say she gets in trouble a lot at school. I hear a lot about strong-willed children, and I swear, I hate to make it like a male-female thing, but I feel like little girls are just so full of fire and energy, and they want to be independent and strong, and it can be so tough because my daughter, my Lord, when she screams no or stop or whatever, I swear she's screaming from the tip of her toe to the top of her head. Like, it is the most blood-curdling scream. And sometimes it takes everything within me not to just scream back, but I know that that wouldn't be the responsible thing to do. So this little temper that she has, it's gotten her into trouble. She seems to have a good week at school and then a bad week at school. And sometimes, I feel like, is it just her? Like, are other kids like this? And of course, I tell myself, oh, she's 2.5. This is just her age. But at what point do you ask yourself, like, is this normal behavior? But as much as she can be like a fiery little monster, for lack of a better word, she's also hilarious and cuddly and sweet. And when she has that moment where she wants to love on you, you just feel like $1,000,000. So it can be pretty amazing. But, back in the day, I swear, I don't even know what I did with my free time. I'm somebody who does love television. I feel like, that should make me feel like some kind of loser that I love TV, but that's the reality. My first career choice in life was to be an actress on film and TV, and now that that dream is long gone, um, I just really enjoy watching it. My DVR is packed. I pretty much don't get to watch TV. I'm sure my wonderful husband would be more than willing for me to catch up on some housewives or, crappy reality show or something like that. But honestly, once both kids are in bed, I literally cannot stay awake longer than half an hour. And I get so upset and so depressed. And my husband just begs me to go to bed. But I am so stubborn and I don't want to go to bed because I'm finally getting time to myself. So the only time I get to watch any of my shows are if my son decides to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, which brings me to sharing a little about my little bundle of joy boy. Ever since I was old enough to want kids, I've always known I've wanted a boy. I don't know what it is. I'm not trying to sound like some creeper or something, but there is something so sweet and so adorable about little boys. So much so, in fact, that with both pregnancies, I found the Chinese gender predictor calendar out there and had to look and see the prediction for what I would have. And with my second pregnancy, I even looked at the predictor calendar to try to have a boy. So, funny story about that. We were finally ready to have another child when my daughter was about a year and a half. And so I knew I had one chance, according to the Chinese gender calendar, of course. I had one chance to have a boy. And I was going to have to conceive during these 3 days in August when I was ovulating. And the problem with that is that my husband was across the country with his parents, and I was home. And so I kept texting him, if you want to have a boy, you're going to need to be home by this date. So, believe it or not, he made it happen. He was home. We tried for the boy. You know how that works. Don't need to get into that. And so then, of course, a few weeks later, I took a pregnancy test. So the pregnancy test was negative. So, we had our little moment there feeling sad, but I figured, hey, my daughter can have a sister. I never had a sister, so that would be fun for her. So then, of course, we tried again the next month. Well, a few weeks later, I had the stomach flu, and I took some anti-nausea medicine. I still went to work, but I just felt pretty crappy. So then one morning I'm in the shower, and I actually felt like I was going to throw up. And I was like, oh man, like this is weird. So I get out of the shower, and I actually threw up. And I was like, all right, I'm not somebody that throws up. This is kind of weird. So I didn't say anything at the time, but that day I went and bought a pregnancy test. I came home, took the pregnancy test. Again, the test was negative. So I sat on the toilet, finished my business, and I was about to throw the pregnancy test away. But when I looked at it, this little faint second line started to appear. And I was like, holy crap, holy crap, holy crap, I'm pregnant. And I don't know about you ladies out there that are listening, but when you find out you're pregnant, it's so many emotions all at once. It's joy, it's fear, it's excitement, it's just so many things. So I was pregnant. Very exciting. So I remember I left the pregnancy test on the toilet because, going back to my husband's habits, I knew as soon as he came home, he would have to go to the bathroom. So I put the pregnancy test on top of the toilet with the lid down so that it was sitting on top of the lid. So he was all excited. He came out like, really? And so we celebrated. So long story short, I wasn't able to go to the doctor until I was 11 weeks pregnant. And so finally went, they did an ultrasound, and the ultrasound tech was like, you're not 11 weeks pregnant, you're 14 weeks pregnant. I won't say what I said in response because it was not appropriate, but I was shocked. Obviously, that stomach bug that I had was not the flu, it was morning sickness. And I was so excited because I knew, oh my gosh, maybe this means I'm having a boy. So right away, I started attaching to the fact that I thought it was a boy. And then when we finally had our ultrasound to find out the sex of the baby, she did say it was a boy, and I bawled like a little baby. I cried and cried. I was so happy. And so I finally got the little boy that I always wanted. So then my son was born, and like I said, I did get to have him by VBAC, which bonded me to him in a whole nother way. And he was pretty special right from the start. He was a lot different from his sister. He slept better right away, and he latched immediately. And I was just like, I finally got to experience what everybody had talked about when they were like, I fell in love at first sight. Like after my daughter was born, I thought those people were nuts. But I did get to experience that. However, now, almost 6 months later, sometimes I feel like my magical little angel is slowly trying to kill me. I am so tired. I feel so bad for my students. Yesterday, when I left work, I felt so guilty because I'm so exhausted that I don't have any patience. They will ask me a question, and instead of, you know, respecting the fact that they have a question, I find myself snapping at them. And yesterday, we're rehearsing for a school play right now, and students didn't have a chair that they needed, and I yelled, "Go to the room and get a chair." And when I turned around, the dean of our school was standing right behind me, and I felt like such a jerk because that's not who I am. I'm just tired and I'm cranky. So, I guess it was last week, I did finally reach out to a sleep specialist. It's the same sleep specialist that I used for my daughter. She had different sleep problems. She did not want to go to sleep without being held. So we would literally bounce her on the yoga ball. I know some of you moms out there, you know all about bouncing on the yoga ball. We would bounce on the yoga ball, we would wrap her up super tight in her swaddle, and then I swear we had to like ninja tiptoe to her crib, place her down into the crib like she's the baby Jesus in the manger, and then so quietly have to tiptoe out of the room. And if one floorboard creaked, that child's eyes would pop open and she would start screaming and crying. Whereas my son, he goes to sleep like a dream. I give him a bottle, he closes his eyes, I place him in his crib, and he rolls over and goes to sleep. However, he wakes up all night long. And most of the time, he doesn't even wake up crying. He just wakes up and he starts talking and he starts laughing. But our house is small, it's less than 1,200 square feet, so we hear everything. Of course, my dear husband, whom, let me remind you, I do love the guy, he sleeps through everything. He lays next to me snoring, and sometimes I swear I'm going to end up on that show Snapped because I'm going to smother him with a pillow. All I want is to know that he's awake too. I'm not expecting him to get up with the baby and do anything, but just please, misery likes company. Just tell me you're suffering with me. So anyway, I reached out to the sleep consultant, and this time I was looking for help with how to get him to sleep for longer. So she's amazing. She gave me some advice, and now it's been a little over a week, and he's been doing better. He's actually staying asleep until 4 a.m. Once 4 a.m. hits, he thinks it's time to wake up. And it's brutal. It's honestly, like I said, I feel like he's slowly trying to kill me. It doesn't matter that I'm getting a longer stretch of sleep, it's still just not enough. And the worst part of it is that I have to get up for work to start getting ready at 5. So if he wakes up at 4, I might as well just stay awake till 5. It's horrible. So I've been leaving him in his room. He cries. The other morning he woke up at 4 and he was still crying when I got out of the shower at 5:20. Again, I feel like I sound like a horrible mother letting my child cry, but you moms out there, you know the difference between the cries. If my son was in any kind of pain or hungry or had a dirty diaper, he would cry in a way that would communicate that to me. I know in this case he's just crying because he's annoyed. He wants to get up, he wants to play, and he's mad that no one is coming in there. Can you tell I'm trying to convince myself of that right now? Totally. So, anyway, so my son is absolutely amazing. He is just, he loves his mommy. He worships his father, which of course makes me crazy. And he thinks his sister is the funniest thing in the world. It's just so hard not to get a good night's sleep. I worry, I fear. I see moms post on Facebook that, my son didn't start sleeping through the night till he was 4 years old. Like, honestly, I could cry just thinking about that because I feel like when I'm tired like this, just everyone suffers. And I hate that. I like being a joyful person. I like being silly and funny, and I just don't have the energy to do any of that. So basically, I just wanted to let all the moms know if you are suffering through sleep deprivation or you have a toddler with the attitude of a teenager, you are not alone. Us mommies have to stick together and remind each other that we don't have to be perfect. There's kind of like this backlash against Pinterest moms. And I get that, like I would rather enjoy my kid's birthday party than worry about it being perfect. But honestly, I envy those women. I look up to those women. They have so much talent, and if they have the energy to put that talent and make an amazing party, honestly, hats off to you. I think that's so amazing. I have no animosity towards that. I'm just jealous of the energy because I don't have any. I it takes a lot for me to even just get the dishes done or make dinner or get the laundry done, and honestly, I don't get those things done as much as I would like to. Going back to the title of this podcast, It Takes a Village, that reminds me of the greatest gift my husband has given me recently. He told me, and I swear I've been asking for this for the longest time, we can start having our cleaning lady come once a month. If that is not the sweetest, most romantic thing I've ever heard in my life, I am just so happy. It takes off so much pressure to know that someone will come and take care of those little nitty gritty things that I just can't. I've never been like a crazy, insane, clean person. I guess I would consider myself to be a little bit messy. And it just makes me feel like such a failure at the end of the day when I look around and it looks like I literally have done nothing. I swear, I might not be on my hands and knees scrubbing the floor or washing the windows or anything like that, but I do try to tidy things up. It's hard because right when you walk into our house, there's a table to the left, and it has become the catch-all where it's like the mail and the junk mail and the kids' clothes and the toys, and I swear every single day I try to gather it up and clean it, and it literally looks like a bomb went off. I was so embarrassed the other day because, like I mentioned previously, our daycare is across the street, and of course, being the incredibly together woman that I am, I left my cell phone there across the street. So I had just gotten home, and of course, being Mother of the Year, I automatically turned the TV on for my daughter. And I'm running around trying to get her milk and, get something for the baby to play with so that I can start to get the process going for job number 2. And there's a knock at the door. And the first thing I think of is, oh crap, the house is a mess. And I'm so embarrassed that when I open the door to my house, it's not like this pristine, clean place. I'm worried that they're going to like call Child Protective Services or something. So I probably looked so rude because I opened the door, but I only opened it enough for them to see my face and my body. And so the teacher hands me the phone, and I said, oh my gosh, if my head wasn't attached to my body. And I shut the door. And I immediately started cleaning. And still, by the time my husband got home 2 hours later, it looked like I'd literally done nothing. It's so frustrating. So, anyways, I'm so excited because now once a month our cleaning lady will come because, ladies, it takes a village to make it happen. And I think sometimes moms feel a little bit guilty because, like I said earlier, it's all relative. If you can afford a cleaning lady once a month, go for it. If you can afford a cleaning lady once a week, go for it. If you can afford a live-in nanny who's going to help watch your kids and clean the house, go for it. Being a mom is so damn difficult that we deserve whatever we need to make our lives just a little bit easier. Don't you think so? I do. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this first episode of the Mother of the Year podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening. This is just an experiment of seeing, if I can kind of get out my thoughts and feelings this way, and who knows, maybe we can make a community of women. I have some amazing women in my life who are amazing mothers as well, so I'd love to start having some of them come on with me and share their stories. And you know what? Maybe we'll find some women who have their stuff together and they can share their secrets. Who knows? If you have any suggestions or ideas, or you just want to give me some feedback or say hi, you can email me at motheroftheyearpodcast@gmail.com. And please leave a review for this episode. Go ahead and rate it 5 stars and feel free to subscribe. So long for now, ladies, and the struggle continues next week.